Hello and welcome to this video on the Unit A4 Formulae. So, this unit directly follows on from the topics you can see on the screen. A1, Introduction to Algebraic Thinking, so you'll have done that back in Year 7. Where we were looking at things like 2 times x equaling 2x and other ways of writing things. A3, linear equations, you'll have met that into Year 8, where you're solving linear equations, a little bit of substitution as well. We're going to need some things from NP2 and NP3 about inverse operations, knowing that multiply and divide are the inverse of each other, and the same with addition and subtraction. NP5, order of operations, is also going to be very, very useful. Think about that law of big maths. That's so important in everything you're going to be doing in maths. And then NP6, negative numbers, just because when we're doing some substitution, we're going to need to know that minus 2 times 3 is minus 6, and a minus times a minus is a plus, and things like that. So those are the sort of things that you need to make sure you are really happy with before you start this topic. Perhaps go back and have a look at their landing documents, have a look through some of the videos just to remind you of those things. It might have been a while since you've done them. So for each unit we have a remote learning document. This is the one for Unit A4 on Formulae. Okay, just in case you haven't seen one of these before, what it does is it splits the unit into some objectives. Each objective is kind of one thing that you need to learn. So the first one, for example, is Objective 1, to know how to write formulae in words and letters. And it will give you things like there's a Corbett video, there's some questions from Corbett Maths, and there's a Hegarty task for you to complete with a video alongside. If you follow each objective all the way through, you will become, hopefully, really confident in that objective, okay? So when using one of these documents, you're going to start from Objective 1 and work your way through, ticking off as you go. Your teacher might ask you to start from a later objective depending on where you've got to before you've started learning at home. Make sure you keep track of where you are, maybe print it out and tick off what you've done so that you know where you're up to and don't get confused. Remember, you can always ask questions, so if there's anything that you get to and you think I don't quite know what this is, you can always email your teacher and ask. Corbett Maths is going to be used quite a lot, and there are some questions on there. There's also a section for marking them, so make sure you mark them so that you know that you have become totally happy and totally confident with that area. Okay, and work your way through the document. So, our objectives are split into, or for Unit A4, are split into certain areas. This is Objective 1, writing formulae in words and letters. And this, as you'll see, is on the board. There's a couple of examples of what you'll be looking at to do, where we've got perimeter, but the lengths are all shown as letters, and you've got to express what that is. What the perimeter is a formula, and things like that. So you can see the answers appearing on the board. Perhaps have a go yourself and see if you could do them already. You might find you're already confident with this. Substitution we will use in a lot of what we do with algebra. Substitution is so important for algebra that you need to be totally happy with it. So there's an example of some questions on the board and the answers have just appeared. A couple of the last questions are quite nice. If a equals 7, give me an expression that equals 21. There's loads of different ways that you could do that. So just make sure that you're happy with things like that. You'll be doing rearranging linear formula. Now this gets a little bit more complicated, but if you take it step by step it's quite nice. So the first one's alright, and then it gets more complicated as we go further down. So just make sure you are really happy with these sort of topics. Again, making x a subject when we've got some powers and square roots involved and things like that. So if you've seen these in class already, you might be happy with these, but you might need to watch some videos to help you through. This leads beautifully on to our next topic, which is A5, which is all about plotting linear graphs. And that massively uses substitution to help you plot those graphs. So there's an example of a GCSE question on the screen right now, where we've got an equation. We're going to substitute some values in for x and find some values for y, and then we can plot them. So it's so important that you're happy with substitution. In the bigger picture of mathematics, there's loads of places where this can be used. On the left-hand side of the screen, you will see lots of different formulae that we will use and you will meet throughout all of your GCSE in mathematics. Lots of them you might already know. You may have seen y equals mx plus c. Pythagoras, I don't know if you've seen that already, but you may or may not have. So lots of them you will already know, and they're all about substituting values in for those letters. But actually, this is one of those topics that crosses into a lot of other subjects. For example, on the right-hand side, we've got some chemical calculations, things that you would actually see in your chemistry GCSE, where you've got to input values for certain things, so the mass, the theoretical yield or the actual yield, the volume, the amount, things like that, which you will use to calculate all sorts of things in chemistry that are actually a bit of substitution in mathematics. You just don't always kind of pair the two together. So, if you have any questions about A4, any questions at all, please email your teacher. Remember that if you follow that landing document all the way through, you will find that you are totally competent with A4 and it'll be brilliant. Make sure you're recording your marks and asking for help wherever you can.